Hello and welcome to the Powered by Rock podcast, where I'm going to be speaking with Jim from the musical project Scoopski, which is a Philly-based act that is incredibly catchy and has songs that will have you singing and laughing along due to some of the subtle humor behind many of the songs. We'll dig into the music of Scoopski right after this.
You're listening to the Powered by Rock podcast with your host, Isaac Kuhlman. The Powered by Rock podcast was created to help showcase some of the best rock musicians in the world and to pass on to future generations the rock music that has inspired rock fans around the world for decades. We want listeners to be able to hear great stories and life experiences directly from their favorite artists, as well as dig deeper into music theory and talk rock like no other show you've ever heard. This isn't about looking cool, it's about getting real and having a great time. Without further ado, let's start the show.
Hello and welcome to the Powered by Rock podcast. It's Isaac from Powered by Rock here again. Today's going to be a lot of fun because I get to talk with Jim from Scoopski, which is a one-man musical project that's pretty impressive for its musical quality and the proficiency with which you put music out. First of all, 3 albums in 3 years, that's not an easy feat by any means. And to make all the songs good is even more impressive. So, hey, Jim, welcome to the show.
I'm very happy to be here. Thanks for having me, Isaac.
Yeah, and it's kind of like revealing a little bit behind the curtain. Obviously, Scoopski's the project name. Jim's you weren't born Scoopski, but that's the project name. So it's pretty cool that we actually get to talk to you, see that you're a real person, and it's not just a robot making this music out there on the internet somewhere. But
right.
One thing I really like about your music is it's actually very professional sounding, especially for a kind of independent act, and you play all the instruments really well. So like, I know that you told me that you first kind of started on drums, or at least early on you were playing drums in a band. So there's a lot of songs like Emergency Joyride, which has some really cool drum work in there. It's got some fills with like the double bass beats and stuff like that might sound otherwise like a 60s pop song or something like that. But what's it like being a one-man band? I do a little bit of recording myself, and so I know all the ins and outs, but I don't make it sound as good as you. And how do you feel about the one-man aspect of it?
Well, first of all, thank you for the compliment on the sound, because one of my most I don't know how to say it, but something I'm most self-conscious about is my production on the songs, because I produce everything too. So the fact that you say that makes me feel really good. I'm happy to hear that. But it's great. I was in a bunch of bands growing up for, years and years in the outside Philly music scene, suburb out of Philly. And that was amazing, just growing up, playing in a bunch of different rock bands. But going to a one-man band, I think it's something I've kind of secretly always wanted to do. But just having all the creative freedom to record whatever you want, say whatever you want, take as much time on the recording as you need to. It's really fulfilling, and it's just great. I mean, it's the happiest I've ever been making music in my entire life. So
do you ever end up arguing with yourself about how the song should sound in any aspect at all?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I go through that all the editing process for my songs is very arduous. I'll listen to a song on every medium. I'll listen to it in my car, headphones, on the TV, I'll make little tweaks and changes for hours and hours. And, that part's very arduous, but, I won't stop until it sounds at least passable to me. Then I'm like, okay, I guess I can put this out now.
I do one thing I should say. I'll drive around my neighborhood listening to one song over and over. Does that sound right? What's wrong with that? Why can't I get that sound on it?
Yeah. One thing I should say is that although on the internet, I am kind of a one-man band. We actually are a two-piece, technically. My wife, I call her Mrs. Scoopski. She actually helps me write songs, and she plays the keys and does backup harmonies. And on the new album coming out, actually, she takes lead vocals on a few songs, actually. So that's kind of a bit of a change going forward. She's not as comfortable putting an online persona out as I am, but going forward, we might start incorporating her into the imagery online, but we'll see. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
That's awesome.
But, yeah.
So yeah, obviously not everyone who's listening to the show will likely know who Scoopski is, and even the fans who do may not know about your journey. So like, let's dig into your background a little bit. You did talk about being in some bands and stuff. So let's kind of talk about how you first started getting into music and what led to, obviously ended up just doing Scoopski.
All right. Well, so growing up, obviously you always listen to what your parents have on. My parents, very into a lot of, actually when I was growing up, the early 90s was kind of happening, dating myself here, but my parents actually liked some cool music at the time. My parents were into like your Third Eye Blinds and your Everclears, Collective Soul. So I grew up hearing a lot of that. And then I didn't really personally click with music on a personal level though until I was 13 years old, and the band that did it for me was Good Charlotte.
Okay.
Like full stop. They were the band that got me into music. Like Lifestyles Are Rich and Famous. I heard it on the radio. I went and got the album, fell in love with the album, saw them live. That's what made me want to start playing drums. First was Good Charlotte. So yeah, pretty much them, and then getting into a bunch of other pop punk music from there is what really made me want to start playing music. And then I got a drum kit at the same time that my cousin and good friend got his first guitar. So we actually started playing together lately, right after that Christmas when we got our instruments. And we eventually got decent enough that we were like, all right, we should do something with this, because we were in high school. And, so I found a couple friends who wanted to try to be in a band, and we started a pop punk band called Renegade Milkmen. And that was my first band.
I think it cut out a little bit there. What did you say? Renegade, what was it?
Renegade Milkmen.
Oh, Milkmen. Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah. So, we just kind of goofed around and started writing songs. That was kind of how I got into songwriting was, eventually I was the drummer, but I kind of cared. I noticed I cared a lot about the songs and how they sounded and the lyrics and all. So I was like, I think I might be more than just a drummer. So after that point, I got a guitar, and, I kind of just started teaching myself how to play and writing songs. And, throughout the years, I stuck to playing in drums in, another band after that. And I transitioned slowly but surely into more singing. Like in my second band, I was drummer / backup singer. And then my third band, I was just the lead singer. Like I just became a front man in that group. And that's actually the group. My wife was in that group, so that's how we met. Actually, she was a bandmate of mine. And then, that group ended in like 2014-ish or so. I joined a Beatles cover band for a little bit after that. That was fun. And then I kind of didn't touch music again for a few years because we were living in like a really crappy apartment in Philly, and we had like really bad neighbors. And anytime I played, they kind of like gave us a hard time, even though they were super loud all the time themselves. So when it wasn't really until we bought our own house a few years ago that was like, we had a basement, which is where I'm at right now. And I was like, you know what? I kind of got a little studio around here, so let me give this a shot. And I picked up the guitar, and I haven't been able to stop since that day I picked up my guitar in the basement here. So here I am.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell. Obviously, you've written like 40 songs in 3 years, so that's pretty impressive.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know what it is. I just got bit with a songwriting bug, and like I said, I think it's the freedom of just having, time and a place to do it, and the means to do it, and the drive to do it. And it's just been wonderful.
Well, and you just had a kid, so he hasn't come home from the hospital as we were talking about beforehand. But once he does, you might be slowing down a little bit, just for a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's the idea. I kind of put this album out right beforehand, knowing I think things are probably going to start to slow down a bit here. So yeah. It's like they always say, like, make sure you don't have any like house projects or anything like done. Once your baby comes, that stuff's going to be put on hold for a while. So like, get everything out of the way. I was like, okay. Oh, for sure.
I just had a kid last year too.
That's
like, yeah.
I'm totally fine with that. I'm ready for that. So
Awesome.
That's all good.
Congrats again. So yeah,
Thank
let's
you.
talk about some of the songs, because you do obviously write about some pretty funny subject matter. I mean, just off the top of my head, I could list a few, but like Mermaid Girl, for example, or Top 8, I miss MySpace, or even the newest single. I think it's still the newest single, Elon, Send Me to Mars.
Yeah.
So why did you kind of decide to write songs that are kind of funny versus, you know, being serious or like depressed or whatever? Is that kind of like a reflection of your personality?
Yeah. So when I first started writing songs, like, well, I should say, like, one of my biggest influences is Weezer, and they're kind of known for their pop culture references, and like
Yeah.
they just kind of put that in everything. And I think I just kind of
Not
took a lot of
intentionally
that,
funny
and
though.
that's true. That's true. I've also gotten a lot of comparisons to Nerf Herder. A lot of people say my stuff sounds like them, but anyways, getting off track. Yeah, I mean, I think I just kind of write songs that way. Like the first song that I really wrote that caught on with people, like in the local music scene where I grew up, was a song about Tails from Sonic the Hedgehog, and I think ever since that one, I kind of just have been like not stuck in a rut in a bad way, but like I kind of love to stick to pop culture stuff and
Yeah.
incorporate a lot of that into the lyrics. Now, like that's not all I do. Like my last album I put out, the second one out of the three, that one's kind of more depressing because I was going through a lot of bad stuff in my life. There's a lot of stuff about depression, anxiety, loss, and so I think like I know it's like, you know, when people hear like Mermaid Girl, it's like, oh, that guy's like the, you know, the lighthearted guy, but there's a little bit of everything in there. But I'm totally cool with the branding of like the lighthearted nerd rock, geek rock stuff.
Yeah. And I mean, the name
like
that
a
you
lot of
chose
that.
obviously is from Impractical Jokers, which is
Yep.
you know, a funny show itself.
Sure. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've always liked, you know, groups that have, you know, they can, like Weezer, they can have a song that's like kind of jokey, not, you know, like you said, not intentionally jokey, but
Yeah.
more lighthearted. And then they have Pinkerton, which is like, you know, raw and emotional. So I've always respected that a lot. And you know, this next album coming out, it's got some sentimental stuff on it, some somewhat serious stuff, and then it's got songs like Elon Sent Me to Mars, which is, you know, obviously more on the lighthearted side. So I like a balance. Definitely the scale leans more towards the lighthearted, silly side though.
Yeah. And I think a lot of like your videos that you create, kind of, those are kind of the ones that you make the videos behind, because it's so kind of easy to do something funny about it. Right. So,
Correct.
When you talk about the videos, looking at like, you know, I'm trying to think of like contrarian, where you're doing like the flip signs or whatever. Right. So it's like, you're just kind of taking it with a grain of salt, because it's not like you have to be serious in those songs. Obviously, when you do more serious songs, there is that, you know, that personal stake in it too. So like if you create it and nobody likes it, or you create a video behind it and everyone's like, what the hell is this, versus what you've done before, then it hurts a lot more, right? It's like, oh man, they didn't like that. Like the lighthearted one, yeah, if you don't like it, it's because I was joking around anyway, that's fine. But when it's like something serious and they don't like it, you're like, oh, that sucks.
And I'll be honest, like I kind of, you know, not I'm an independent artist. I only have like, you know, a few hundred listeners on Spotify. It's not like big scale or anything, but like I did, like, you know, my second album, it definitely wasn't received as well as the first one for sure. So it's like, and that was more personal, and I'm like, it didn't hurt me or anything, but you know, because I'm not expecting huge anything, but because I'm just doing this for fun. But it definitely, like, you know, it was like, oh, okay, like I guess people are more, maybe for me, they want more of the pop culture reference songs. So you know, it is what it is.
This is exactly the reason why Rivers Cuomo stopped creating Pinkerton albums.
That's true. Yeah. Maybe repeating itself. Who knows?
Yeah, exactly. He basically said that he felt like it was too personal. So that way, when it wasn't received as well as the first album, he basically just said, I'm not going to do that anymore.
Yeah, which is, you know, it's really a shame. I know, like, and he tried on some albums to kind of go back to like the emotional side, but it was never as honest as it was, you know, on Pinkerton. But what can you do?
Yeah, for sure. All right. So one of the kind of most obvious influences for the lighthearted songs, I think might be like and even some of the vocal range on it, it might be something like a Weird Al Yankovic, because I know even though you're not writing parodies and you don't do polka songs or anything like that, you do have a tendency to be funny and sing in a way that makes people happy. Do you feel it's a fair comparison, or do you see Weird Al as like an influence in any way on you?
I'm totally cool with that, because I love Weird Al growing up, and
Yeah.
you're not the first person to say that. I think someone told me that like a couple weeks ago, actually. I'm cool with that. I think, and then like Perry Grip and Nerf Herder, they're kind of like an influence on me. That's something
Yeah.
that I've been compared to a lot as well. And Perry Grip is kind of on the Weird Al Yankovic spectrum as well. So
Yeah.
that's totally cool with me.
Yeah. Awesome. So let's go way back in this time machine, all the way back to the year 2020, knowing that you've done 2 albums that came right out, came out after that. But did you cull some of the songs from the first album? Like, did you take anything out to then save it for later albums? Or was that just like the first, 10 songs or whatever that kind of came out? Did you use anything from that first kind of session or that first recording process that you ended up being put into albums 2 or 3?
Let's see. Yeah, there was definitely some stuff. I mean, even the first album, like it definitely went through like different iterations. I had like a couple EPs before I made that one an album. So,
Yeah.
the songs in the first year and a half were kind of scattered around, but they just ended up on that first album, which is called Bad Things Happen in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
I took the best of those sessions, which there actually was more songs, believe it or not, than what's out there. Some I cut down on, but yeah, the first year or so it was definitely more scattered. But once got to the album and now this third one, things were kind of more streamlined for sure, like album process.
Yeah. So obviously the names of your albums, it's when I read them, when I just read the names, like it almost kind of sounds like you're having a conversation, because the first one's called Bad Things Happen in Philadelphia, and the second album is called Everything is Fine. So it's like, wait, bad things happen, but everything's fine. It's like there's almost a contradiction there. I'm pretty sure it might be unintentional, but did the album names, the first 2 at least, have any correlation to each other?
They did not. I did realize that before, exactly what you're saying. When you look at them side by side, it's like, whoa, that's odd. No, they had nothing to do with each other. Bad Things Happen in Philadelphia was just, I saw an opportunity for a funny album cover with, my 2 cats shooting lasers out of their eyes at the city of Philadelphia and blowing things up.
Yeah.
And then Things Are Fine was, that was more of like a reflection on, the past year or so with, the pandemic and, some stuff I had gone through in my life at that point, some kind of dark stuff. So that was kind of like more of a reassurance, almost like things are going to be fine.
Self-affirmation.
So they weren't really, yeah, certainly. So they weren't really related in any way, even though it could seem that way from, just looking at it.
Yeah. And then speaking of album titles, obviously the new album, which by the time this airs should be coming out. So the new album is called See You Soon. And the cover has a sonogram photo of a baby with the universal, rock and roll hand gesture on there.
Mm-hmm.
We talked a bit about this already, but your son was supposed to be born around this time and then he came early. So kind of explain how that album title and that concept came together.
Yeah. So that baby on the cover is actually our baby. That's not him actually doing that with his hand. That's superimposed. My sister actually. That'd be cool. My sister actually superimposed the hand gesture on there like that. But yeah, I mean, our little boy is he's here now. He's been a long journey, because we actually had a battle with infertility, the 2 of us. So we actually went through the IVF process for this baby. And that's something that there's actually a couple songs about it on the new album. There's actually a song about it on our first album too. It's called Lullaby to Nobody, which is more of a depressing take on it. But there's yeah, I mean, this whole album was recorded time of our IVF transfer, which is when they transfer the egg.
Yeah.
And then, you know, from there you have to wait to see if it takes and everything. And luckily he did. So from that time, the first song was called While We Wait, which is a song my wife wrote about, like, you know, we hope this works and, you know, waiting to see, you know, what will come of this. So that song's on the album. And then everything else, you know, whether it's a song about being a parent, which there's some of those on there. There's, you know, I wrote a couple, my wife wrote a couple, or if
Yeah.
it's just, you know, the typical pop culture fun songs. Everything was recorded from like May of last year to December 2021. So everything was recorded over the course of the pregnancy. And I just thought, you know, it would be a nice cap on it to put him on the album cover. And that's kind of like the light theme of the album is like, you know, I'll see you soon. And, you know, and spoiler, the final song, See You Soon, is a lot about, you know, being a father and what I'm expecting out of it and everything like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll tell you, you know, obviously being a new father myself, my son just turned a year. It's not what you think.
Congrats.
Like the first couple of weeks are like, I want to punch my face in right now, but it gets better.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you
So
know, and like we were talking. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Like we were talking about before. Okay. Yeah. Like we were talking about before, you know, he's still in the NICU because he was, you know, he was here early. He's, you know, about 5.5 weeks early, but he's doing really well. So he's not home yet, but he should be soon. By the time this comes out, he, you know, very good chance he will be home with us. So
yeah,
we're hoping him, you know.
Awesome. And then I'll have either a drummer or a guitar player, and you'll have either a drummer or a guitar player, and then we'll start a cool band.
That's right. I heard you saying that to someone else on one of the episodes too, and we'll have to join them all up to make a band.
We're gonna have like this international band that we can put together.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
Like We Are the World.
Awesome. Yeah, we are the.
So
2020s.
obviously you are from Pennsylvania. You have a song called Pennsylvania. You talk all about Pennsylvania and how you love it. Now, is that truly like a sentiment you have for the state that you live in, or is that kind of like an ironic sentiment because most people kind of hate the place that they live in for some reason or another? It's like, well, if you don't like it, why don't you just move? But you do mention like cheesesteaks and all this other stuff. Like, name something like your favorite things about Pennsylvania, and do you truly love where you live?
It's that. So that song is both tongue in cheek and not at the same time, which I think is a theme in a lot of my songs. Actually, I do like Pennsylvania. Like I'm proud to be from there. And then there's also some things I say in the song where I'm like, you know, it's like, oh, Pennsylvania, I can barely afford you. And then you list some things that are like, I'm not crazy about. You know, and that says a line about how, like, you know, there's no good beaches in the state. So it pokes fun at Pennsylvania while at the same time kind of honoring it. And that song kind of just came about because I was like, I can't think of too many songs that are about Pennsylvania. Like there's songs about California and New Jersey and New York, but Pennsylvania doesn't have too many like anthems per se. There's one by the Bloodhound Gang, which I enjoy because I was just going to say
P to the P to the A or P to the fucking A or whatever they call it. I can't remember what it's called, but
yeah, and they're probably an influence of mine too. They're from my area, yeah. I mean, that song is, like I said, it's a little bit of both. It's an honoring Pennsylvania and also making fun of Pennsylvania. So
yeah, I mean, outside of Pennsylvania, most people don't know what Wawas are or what do you guys call that ice thing? Water ice.
Water ice, yeah. That's actually
water ice,
that's actually in the chorus. It's we could be eating pretzels and water ice in the sun, but the keystone of life is keeping an eye on your sodium because you know that those are bad for you. But
I don't even think I even knew what water ice was until I saw an episode of maybe the Goldbergs or It's Always Sunny or something like that, and they're talking about. I'm like, what the hell are they talking about? I'm like, isn't that a snow cone? But
yeah, I didn't realize till I was older that no one else around the country calls them that, and I just always grew up calling it that. But yeah,
it's pretty funny. So obviously, you know, right now you're probably not planning on making any big moves, like doing any touring or doing any like shows or anything, but is that something that you actually want to achieve? Is that something that you want to do with an actual band? Do you want to take the show on the road at some point?
So I've really thought about this. I have a friend, actually, I have a bunch of friends that I've met online, actually. On Twitter, there's really a big community of like really great indie musicians. And I'll probably give some of them like a shout out before the end of the show. But
No chance. No, I'm just kidding.
uh, but there's actually a friend of mine who actually is featured on the new album. His project is called Modern Amusement, and he plays shows where he kind of plays to a backing track with drums and bass, and he plays a good distorted guitar and sings over it. And I was like, I knew he was going to be doing it, and he was like, yeah, he was posting videos, and I was like, that sounds really cool. And then he posted a video at the live show, and I was like, wow, that could actually work. Like, and I'm like really seriously considering doing it myself. I was actually more so looking into it before COVID kind of exploded again in my area, but it's not out of the realm of possibility for sure. That's definitely a way I'd consider doing a show, because just playing acoustic for my stuff, I'm not really sure I'd be that into it. I mean, it could be fun, but I think I'd really rather just play an electric guitar and, you know, maybe with like a backing track. I think it could be a fun time, and it works for him. He plays, you know, his music's kind of like Weezer-ish as well. And I think it might work for me. So I may try that in the next year or so, depending on how things go. So
yeah, and at least you don't have to worry about people showing up for band practice or having the drummer out of time or anything like that.
That's true. Yeah, that's a plus.
It's like if we only could have like robots, like, you know, get like the Star Wars Cantina band in here or something, and just like have droids play it or whatever.
That's right. That's all you need. Get a droid band.
So I did mention some of the videos earlier, but let's talk about some of the videos, because obviously you do have quite a lot of videos, and some of them use like stock footage that you kind of, you know, layer over. But I am kind of curious as like how you actually do some of these videos. Like, how do you create the videos? Are you using a few sites that you find? Obviously you're using some, like, I think in one of the latest videos, it might even be the Elon Musk one actually, where you have like 8-bit graphics on the screen and stuff like that, and some like cool backgrounds and stuff. But how are you actually creating these videos? Like, I know, you know, you could tell they're low budget, but I mean, they don't seem like they're just like thrown together by like somebody who has absolutely no talent. You're doing that thing on purpose, right?
Yeah. Oh, they are totally intentionally low budget. They are, but yeah, I just have fun with it. Like I do what I can with the very limited resources I have. And, you know, yeah, I you know, I'll pull some clips off of, you know, wherever on the internet and use them. And, you know, yeah, I'm not really making any money off of them. So I guess that's why I never got a copyright strike for it. But, but you know, I just have fun with it, and I just try to make something that's entertaining to people, and, you know, something that goes along with the song. 'Cause, you know, that's always the kind of videos I like to watch. So I do what I can with what I got. So
yeah. Yeah. And then obviously the promotion side of it, you know, I like to get into this with like independent artists, because, you know, myself and a lot of the friends that I have, and a lot of independent local acts and people that I know that do this, like, they don't get paid much, right? Like, if anything at all. Normally you're paying out of pocket to do any of this stuff, and it's just for a hobby, right? But it's a passion that everybody has, that I know that's in music. So I always like to ask, like, you know, as far as like promoting and stuff like this, like just digging into all these like production and all that stuff. So that way anyone who's thinking about like, hey, this is maybe something I want to do, like, get some tips from people who are doing it right now. As far as your promotion and stuff, like obviously Instagram and YouTube and all that stuff, what kind of tactics do you use to go out there and get the name and everything like that? Because obviously I don't know how I came across you, but I know, like, we probably just commented on somebody else's video or post or something, and then I looked at your profile or something might've happened where you commented on something that I did, or I don't know, but then we ended up chatting on Instagram, and then, you know, I ended up watching some of your videos and enjoying them.
Yeah, social media is 100% of the way I do it. It's not even like close. I mean, Instagram has been like big for me. You know, I kind of have like a little flow on my Instagram where I'll post like some song stuff one day, and then I'll post just random memes to keep people entertained and stuff I find funny. You know, just keep people entertained. And then, you know, for me personally, if I'm following someone and, you know, they're posting something I laugh at, and then I see like they post music as well, I might be more interested to check it out. So, you know, I think that's a way. And then I was talking about Twitter before. I've really found there's a great community of people on Twitter. And, you know, we all kind of like make playlists and curate playlists for each other, and everybody's fans kind of just converge, and, you know, everybody listens to each other. And I think that's a big part of the way that, you know, the word spread. Also, some of it, like, you know, again, not that I'm like super, you know, achieved or anything, but a couple of years ago, actually like a little over a year ago, there was a mermaid, like professional mermaid, they're called, where they dress up like mermaids and they kind of swim around. And she actually used my song Mermaid Girl in one of her clips one day. And she's got like millions of followers on TikTok and Instagram. And I was like taken aback. I was like, oh, okay. So all of a sudden I'm looking at her video and it's using my song and it's got like hundreds of thousands of views. So, you know, I think that may have been something to help me out too. It was just pure luck. Was this Instagrammer, you know, heard my song and was like, oh, that would work in this video. So yeah, a little bit of everything, but social media is definitely the key for indie artists, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I know a lot of people, especially rock musicians and indie rock musicians, are always like, I don't want to like go on, you know, Instagram and Facebook and promote myself. And it's like, well, then you're just not going to have any promotion. Like no one's ever going to hear your music. Sorry. Like you make the greatest music in the world and you're never going to get anybody hear it. Yeah.
It's just kind of the way to do it. I mean, unless you're touring all the time and playing a show every night, and even then I feel like you still need social media. It's still an essential. So it's definitely key.
Yeah. It's not like, so I'll give an example. Like I went to a show here in Las Vegas a couple of weeks ago. This one band, it's called Blue Rain Boots, and they're from Utah. They came down to do a show in Las Vegas, and they have millions of streams on Spotify. They could only pull about 60 people for that show in Las Vegas.
Wow.
So it's like, if you don't have social media, you're not touring, you're not like, you have to have it all. Like if you want to get any sort of following and listenership, you can't just expect people to pick it up and go, oh, I found this off the internet somewhere and it's like a great piece of music. Like you have to put the time and work in. And, you know, even just running a you know, Powered by Rock, for example, I don't promote my own music. I promote other people's music and talk about cool stuff that's going on, but I still have to do the exact same thing. It's, you know, it is a full-time job now for me because I actually have stopped working for my past career and just focusing on this full-time now. But it is something that if you're passionate about, you do need to put in the work. And yeah, I don't really like Twitter and I don't like Facebook. I've figured out Instagram enough to be able to like, okay, I get it. I like it. I can use it. There's not as much political bullshit on there that people are always spouting hate and stuff. Twitter, that's kind of as the guys from Letterkenny will tell you, that's kind of a cult. So I haven't kind of gotten there yet. But there is like these little sub niches of Twitter. It's like Reddit. Like you get in there and as soon as you say something wrong, you're like, everyone's just like screaming at you. And it's like, okay, well, whatever.
You gotta find the right part of Twitter. There is. It took me a while because I know what you're talking about. There is some cults on Twitter of every stripe, but I found, you know, like I keep talking about, there's really a great group of like indie artists on Twitter that I've bonded with, and they're all great. So, but yeah, Instagram's great. Like you said, that cuts a lot of the political bull crap and stuff too. And yeah. Cool.
So obviously we'll add some links to your music in our show notes below this episode. Did you have anything else that you wanted to plug, or you want to say anything to the listeners who maybe haven't heard of you yet and want to check out your music? What would you say to them?
Yeah, I'd say if you want to check out my music, it's, you know, it's fun power pop music, little bit of alternative. Some people call it geek rock. The next album it's a lot of lighthearted, a lot of, you know, not so serious music mixed with some semi-serious music. Like I said, my wife, Mrs. Scoopski, she's got a few songs on there, so that switches things up a bit, and people seem to like them so far from who I've played it for. Yeah, See You Soon. It comes out on February 2nd, 2022, and you know, it'll be on all streaming services, Bandcamp, SoundCloud, anywhere you want to find it. And you can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, everything. Pretty much my tag is always at Scoopski the band, no spaces. So that's always how you can find me. And then just real quick, I wanted to give a couple shout outs to my buds on the indie world on Twitter. Wanted to already shout out Modern Amusement, the Negatrons, Fuzz Ruckus, the Kudas, Eric Linden, Mikey J, Brian Lambert, Bathroom of the Future, Orange Creek Riders, and Matt Durda. They're all great, so go check them out.
And they better listen to this episode then, so they can hear their shout outs.
They better. I think they will.
Awesome. So I want to thank you, obviously, Jim, for coming on, talking about Scoopski and everything all to do with the projects and the 3 albums. And again, congratulations on having the son. Thanks for the conversation today. And if you haven't checked out the music yet, go to the show notes below this episode for the links. If you like what you heard on the show, please make sure to subscribe to the podcast and share it with your friends on social media. You can see the full video interview on our YouTube channel as well. So if you want to check out our written content or any of the products or merch that we have available, go to poweredbyrock.com to read our absolutely free rocking blog full of album reviews, interviews, and lists to keep you entertained. And find our gear as well so you can pick up some items to play and look like a rock legend. That's our show for today. We'll see you soon for the next episode. Until then, rock on.